distribution point based on the previous paper, that is GATE 2022. So what we have observed in that paper and what are some takeaways which you have to remember, we'll discuss those points as well. And towards the end, point number 3, we will conclude the video or this discussion by looking into some important points and a summary of whatever we discussed through the course of this video. So let us start with the first part. I hope you are aware that from last 2 years the pattern of the paper has been updated. The new syllabus was released 2 years before, and from last year a new pattern of question paper was introduced, where the question paper is now divided into part A and part B. So let us first look into the pattern of the overall question paper. So the total questions which anyone has to answer in the examination will be 65 questions. Of those 65 questions, general aptitude, you will have 10 questions, and these 10 questions will carry a weightage of 15 marks, and this is common for everyone. So the general aptitude part is the first area which you need to answer in the question paper. So this is something which is important to score well in. Anyone who is having a good rank generally has a very good marks, more than 12 marks for sure in general aptitude. So target for 12 plus, target for full marks, and that is possible because the questions in the general aptitude part are not that difficult to score well. Now that with that clear, common part A. So coming to the architecture and planning part, the core subject part, you have part A and part B. Part A, that is common part, will have a weightage of 60 marks out of 39 questions. So you will have 39 questions, of which the total weightage will be 60 marks, and this part is the portion with maximum weightage. So remember this point during the course of your preparation and also during the examination. You have to remember that common part is the most crucial part to get a good rank or a good score. Why? Because it has the majority of the weightage. 60 marks of the question paper is based on common part itself, and you will have 39 questions in the common part, which will include both topics of architecture and planning. We will look into the details of the syllabus in a while. So coming to the second part, that is part B. Part B will have a total weightage of 25 marks, for which you will need to answer 16 questions. So of those 16 questions you will have a total score of 25 marks weightage. So the distribution of the overall question paper is this way: 15 marks for general aptitude, which is fixed and easy to score. So that is the important point to be remembered from general aptitude point of view. 60 marks, majority of the weightage is for common part, so you need to have a special emphasis on the syllabus for common part, and the balance 25 marks is for architecture and planning. So what do you understand by this? Don't get lost into these minute aspects like which topic comes under which part. So there are many students who waste a majority of the time before preparation or during the preparation in understanding each and every topic and where it falls into. Is it part A or part B1 or part B2? Don't go into those minute details and don't waste time. You have to have a general idea on the syllabus. That is obviously very important, but don't waste time into minute details of each and every part of each and every topic, which portion it falls under. So we'll discuss the details of the syllabus also. The idea here is you should select the area of focus, that is the common part, and select the topics of the common part. That should be your focus in your preparation. Anyways, let us now move to the further details to understand the details of the syllabus. Now that we know the overall structure of the question paper and the marks distribution, let us look into the syllabus of this examination. So as far as general aptitude is considered, that is 15 marks. 10 questions of general aptitude will be asked from 4 topics: verbal ability, quantitative ability, which is basic math, analytical ability, which includes analogies and all, and spatial reasoning, which includes mirror images, water images, and sequences, pattern sequences. So it is basically the reasoning part. So reasoning part, that is analytical and spatial reasoning, was introduced after the new syllabus came into effect, that is from GATE 2021 onwards. That is since last 2 years these 2 parts have been added, so don't miss out on its preparation. If you're focusing, there are many students who prepare from only previous papers. If you're doing that, don't forget that these 2 have also been added. Have a sufficient practice on the on the spatial and analytical reasoning as well, because these have been introduced from the last 2 years. The most important point to be remembered from this part of the syllabus is there is only one crucial point with respect to general aptitude, only one way to go about it, that is practice. So focus on the practice of this portion. Dedicate a regular amount of time on daily basis. If you are dedicating say 3 hours for your preparation for GATE exam, of those 3 hours you have to dedicate a fraction of it, say 30 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever you feel is suitable. You have to dedicate it for general aptitude on a continual basis for the remaining 130 or 120 days, whatever you're having for your GATE exam. Dedicate on a daily basis some amount of time of your preparation for general aptitude separately, because the number of marks, that is 15 marks, is a very huge weightage and that is fixed for general aptitude. Coming to the second part, that is common part. I already told you the importance of common part because it has the maximum weightage. That is something which you need to focus on in your course of preparation in all the steps of the exam. Before the examination, understanding the syllabus, focus on the common part, especially to understand the topics there. During the during the course of preparation and making your running notes, have a special emphasis on common part. During the examination also, take care that you're doing well in the common part because it has maximum of the weightage. And the syllabus of this particular common part has a total of 7 sections. If you download the official syllabus from the GATE website or from the GATE brochure, you will find that in the common part of architecture you have a total of 7 topics. There are 3 architecture topics and 3 planning based topics. You can say these are services comes under both architecture and planning, so it is a combination. These are common subjects. So the first section is architecture, where you have the topics of architectural graphics, standards and codes and codes of practice. And the second section is construction management and including estimation as well, estimation and construction management. Environmental planning is the third section, where you have various about say environmental pollution, environment, so it is about environmental, that's the third section, environmental planning. The fourth section is urban design, which also includes landscape and also conservation. Then you have planning process, where you have the basics of planning. Then you have the topic of housing, and finally you have the section of services, which include various services including water supply, including fire safety. All these topics are covered under services portion. So these are the 7 sections in the common part. With respect to the syllabus, one very important point to be remembered, which has been observed in the last year's paper, that is GATE 2022. In the common part, you have total of 11 numerical questions last year. Now this number is not fixed. The number of numerical questions can increase or decrease in any year of question paper. But approximately the range would be the same. So I will tell you about the distribution of the types of questions and marks as well moving further. But one important point with respect to syllabus, that is common part, is in the last year, this is an observation from GATE 2022 question paper, there were 11 numerical questions. Of these 11 numerical questions, more than half of the questions, not more than half, just leaving out 2 questions, the remaining 9 questions, 9 out of 11 questions were asked from only 3 topics in this. What do you understand by that? Here you have a lot of topics which are theoretically stronger areas or sections which are morely towards theory, like environmental planning is more of a theoretical subject, architectural graphics or architecture is more of a theoretical subject here. So theoretically strong subjects are higher in number, so the number of numerical questions will be fixed. You will have a minimum of 10 to 12 to 13, 10 or 13 or 11 or 12. So that range, that's the number of numericals which you will get. And these numerical questions, almost all, excluding 2 or 3 questions, you will get from few topics only. And last year's question paper from GATE 2022, of these 11 questions, 4 numericals were asked from construction management and specification and estimation, construction management and estimation part. From that part there were 4 numericals, and you will be shocked to know that of those 4, 3 were 2 marks numericals. So a very huge amount of weightage from the numerical part. So you need to identify these numerically important topics. So in your preparation, focus on the numerically important topics specifically, because the number of numerical topics are limited now in the common part. The majority of the like you have building, say building construction has numericals, structures has numericals. So all these come under the architecture part now. Structures is completely under architecture part. So the number of topics with numerical content in it is lesser in the common part now. So you need to identify those crucial areas. Construction management, there were 4 questions. 3 questions were from the services chapter, services section in last year's paper, and 2 numericals were from the planning topic. So 9 out of 11 are only from these topics. One question was from environment and one question was from graphics, architectural graphics based on scale. So simple numericals. So if you talk about 2 marks numericals, 3 2 marks numericals were asked from construction man. So identify these numerically important subjects: construction management, estimation. Under services you have transportation part, and you also have water supply and drainage and sewerage part. So solid waste management, there was a numerical. So identify those numerically important areas and have a special emphasis on those in your preparation. It is not necessary that the same distribution will be followed, but there's not much flexibility with respect to numerical topics is considered in common part. So try to understand that. So understanding these minute crucial aspects is very important in the course of your preparation, and in fact before your preparation, so that you can target those subjects accordingly. So that is about the numerical part, importance of numerical part in the common portion. So identify those strong areas and have a special emphasis on that. Other than that, try to analyze the last year's paper and look into what type of theory questions have been asked, and and accordingly you need to plan out your study of theory portion as well. So that's about the common portion. Coming to the syllabus for the architecture part, there are 3 sections. In architecture, there are 3 sections in the planning as well. In architecture part, you have history of architecture and contemporary architecture, and the second section is structures and building construction, and the third section is services. And in planning part, you have regional planning, planning technique management, that is PTM, and transportation as the third section. So that is about the syllabus. One important point to be remembered here is the boundaries of the syllabus are not very rigid. If you look into the official syllabus itself, there is services mentioned over here. You see the mention of topic services in the common part. The same name section services is also seen in the architecture part, right? And there are topics which are common. There is water supply mentioned in the common part. Water supply is also mentioned in the architecture part. Similarly, say transportation. Transportation is mentioned in the common part in the services. Transportation is also mentioned in the planning part, right? So you cannot divide few subjects for sure that it will come into common part. Few topics are, the boundaries are very vague. You cannot put few subjects into any of the categories. So it is advisable to assume all such topics to be under common part and prepare accordingly. That is one important point with respect to syllabus. Don't leave out something. And also, by observing last year 2022 question paper, it has been even more evident that these boundaries are not very rigid, because question from contemporary architecture, which actually is mentioned on the official syllabus, history and contemporary architecture is mentioned in part B, but a 2 marks question was asked on it in the common part. HVAC was mentioned here. Heating, ventilation and air conditioning was a clear cut mention, has a clear mention in the official syllabus in the services part of architecture, that is part B. But a 2 marks MSQ, multiple select question, was asked on HVAC in the common part. So these boundaries are not rigid. Similarly, many topics which were actually mentioned in the common, like real estate valuation, something on valuation was valuation is a topic which is mentioned in the common part, but a 2 marks numerical was asked on it in the planning part, that is part B. So the boundaries are not rigid. There have been deviations from the official syllabus boundaries in the actual examination. So that doesn't mean you will outright forget about the syllabus. The syllabus was followed, but not to the point in each and every case. So there are slight deviations as well. So considering that, you need to have, don't leave out any. So our advice from career venues would be, don't leave out any topic outrightly completely. Don't say, okay, I'm preparing planning part, so let me leave out history completely. History and contemporary architecture I will not study. That is a wrong way to go about it, because there have been questions, as I just told you, there was a 2 marks question on contemporary architecture which was asked in the common part, and in fact it was a very simple question. So remember that these boundaries are not very rigid, and accordingly plan your preparation for the examination. Excuse me. So that was a brief on the topics of the syllabus and the official syllabus. So download the official syllabus, have it as a reference, but don't define those boundaries as rigid boundaries. Be flexible and learn as many topics as possible. So that is with respect to the syllabus. That's an input which you have to remember with respect to the syllabus of the question paper. Now coming to the marks distribution, let us have a look at the marks distribution. What is the total number of questions? How many questions were 1 mark questions? How many 2 mark questions? How many questions were in the each type? How many MCQ, MSQ, and there are 3 types of questions. Multiple select questions, where you have 4 options and 1 option will be correct. multiple choice question, that is multiple choice question. Basically you will have 4 options, one option will be correct. In multiple select questions you can select multiple correct answers. Of the 4 options, all the 4 can be correct, 3 can be correct, 2 can be correct, or only 1 can also be correct. So that is multiple select question, that will be written in the heading. This is a multiple select question. Numerical answer question is where you need to type in the numerical value. And remember, in numerical answer type question you also sometimes will have negative answer. Like there was a question where the answer in last year paper was -20. If you just write 20 in the numerical answer, you will lose your 2 marks in that question. So negative answer can also be correct, can also be seen in some questions. So accordingly, so there's a possibility to mention that minus sign also in the numerical questions. So the value along with decimal points and the sign minus, that also. So considering all these points, it is very important that you have an understanding of this point, that there can be negative answers as well. So that is about numerical answer type questions. So let us look into the details of the number of questions. In general aptitude part is pretty much simple. There are total of 10 questions, and all those 10 questions in the last year's paper were multiple choice questions, MCQ questions. So you will have 4 options A, B, C, D. Of those, 1 option will be correct, right? So that is multiple choice questions. All the 10 were multiple choice questions in the last year's paper, but that doesn't mean you will not get numerical part in this, or you will not get NAT type questions here. As per the official brochure, you can get any type of questions in any section. The number is not fixed, but at least from the last 2 years, if you observe, only multiple choice questions have been asked in the general aptitude part. Now what is the most important point to be remembered about multiple choice questions? That they have negative marking. No other type of question other than multiple choice has negative marking. So remember, you have to deal with MCQ questions with a bit of extra level of carefulness, because they have negative marking. If you have an incorrect answer, if you put in an incorrect answer, you will lose 1/3 of the mark. If it is a 2 marks question, you will lose 0.67 marks if you do mistake. If it is a 1 mark question, you will lose 0.33 marks if you do a mistake. So accordingly, deal with MCQ questions with a bit of carefulness. Don't take risk and don't do guesswork in MCQ questions. That is something which you have to remember. Coming to part B. Part A. So we have discussed architecture, that is general aptitude part. Coming to the part A, that is common part. In the common part, last year the number of 1 mark and 2 mark questions are fixed. You will have question number 11 to 28, that is 18 questions will be for 1 mark. This is fixed. 18 questions will be for 1 mark in common part, and the remaining of the 39 questions, the remaining 21 questions will be for 2 marks. So this is fixed, that 18 1 mark questions, 21 2 mark questions will be asked in the question paper. But the further division, like in the last year's 2022 paper, of these 18 questions, 8 were multiple choice questions, 4 were multiple select questions, 6 were numerical questions. Right? So the number of 1 mark numericals has been increased, has seen an increase. Generally 1 mark numericals were very few in older pattern of question paper, but here there are a lot of 1 mark numericals also. So if you see, the number is not fixed 846, but it will approximately be the same. Majority of the questions will be MCQ, then comes NAT, few questions will be multiple select type. The heading will mention that these are multiple select. Many students have this doubt. Will it be mentioned that this is a MCQ question, this is an MSQ? It will be mentioned in the heading. Each and every question, it will be written what type of question it is. So in MCQ questions, you will have only an option to select one correct answer. In MSQ, you can select multiple correct answers. So the display also will be completely different. So you need not worry about that aspect. Coming to the 2 mark questions, there are 21 2 mark questions in the question paper. The distribution can vary, but in the last year it was 10 MCQ questions, 16 MSQ questions, and 5 NAT questions. So the numerical questions in all are 11 numerical questions, as I told you. Of these 11, more than say 80%, 9 questions out of these 11 are asked from only 3 topics, 3 sections. So identify the important topics from numerical point of view, important topics from theory point of view, and accordingly work with them. So that is also crucial. So that is how these 39 questions of the common part will give you total of 60 marks weightage. So the One other point you can observe here is the number of questions with negative marking has reduced from the previous pattern. If you see here, so less than 50% of the question paper has negative marking at this point of time. So I'll come to that aspect also in a while. So that is about the common part. Coming to part B, the structure is same for architecture and planning. If you're selecting architecture part, the question numbers will be 50 to 56. There will be 7 questions for 1 mark. 7 questions for 1 mark, and the remaining 9 questions will be for 2 marks. This number is fixed. The division can vary, but in the last year's paper, of these 7 questions, 3 were MCQ, 2 were MSQ and 2 were numerical questions. And out of the 9 questions, 4 were MCQ, 2 were MSQ and 3 were NAT questions. So total of 5 numericals are asked from the part B. Same thing for planning also. There will be 5 numericals in the planning part, 5 numericals in the architecture part. So remember, the total number of numerical questions in the last year's paper was 16, and the topics which they are focused on is very few. So identify those topics and have a special practice on those numerical areas. So that is about the marks division in the question paper. From this marks division, if you observe the total number of MCQ questions, multiple choice questions, excluding the general aptitude, if I talk only about the core subject part, the total number of questions or topics with the total number of questions with that is multiple choice questions are 8 plus 10, that is 18 questions here, and 3 plus 4, that is 7 questions here. 18 plus 7 is total of 25. So out of the total 55 questions in this core topics, in the core subjects, out of 55 there are total 39 plus 16, that is 55 questions. 25 questions out of 55 questions are MCQ type. What do you understand by this? That the number of questions with negative marking has reduced. Less than 50% of the question paper has negative marking now. So accordingly, understanding which question has negative marking, which doesn't have negative marking, understanding that is very crucial. And when you based on the understanding of a question has negative marking or not, you can decide the level of risk which you can take in your guesswork. I'm not asking you to guess and answer the questions. That is a worst way to answer any competitive examination, but you can take a risk in questions without negative marking, even if you're 70% sure or 60% sure. But you cannot take that risk in the negative marking based questions. You cannot take that risk if you're less than 80% or 85% sure. You cannot take that risk. But in questions without negative marking, you can take a guess, or you can take a risk. That would be a better word, not guess, right? So identify the questions. Number of questions with negative marking is lower, so you can have, so in your preparation. Now this is something during the examination. What is it important? What is that? What is the point that you need to understand during the course of preparation? Now there are questions compared to previous pattern. Nowadays you have the number of questions without negative marking has increased, so there is a better scope for taking risk. So you need to widen the scope of your knowledge. So try to understand as many topics as possible. So try to read a lot of theory points, so that when you read a lot of information or a lot of sources related to the given syllabus, you will expand your knowledge base, and from that knowledge base, when you look at a question in the question paper, you will have a better ability to take a risk in some questions where there is no negative marking. So considering that, push your limits and try to build the horizon of your knowledge base. So that is something which you need to consider in the course of your preparation. So with that, I'm almost towards the end of this particular video. In this before we end this video, let us have a brief discussion on the summary of the points. Point number 1, the selection of part B. There is part B1 architecture, part B2 that is planning. Which part to select? This is something which you take, this is a decision which is something which you take during the examination. Once you, so there was a slight confusion with respect to this point in the last year, because nothing was mentioned about this point in the brochure. But from experience of the last year's pattern, it is now very clear that you can look at both architecture. So when you sit in the examination hall, you can look at both papers. You can look at the architecture question paper, that is part B1, and you can look at the planning question paper, that is part B2, and then take a decision which is the part which you're feeling is easy. and where can you score better marks. Accordingly, you can select your part. Selection of the topic in part B will not affect your admission into masters. It is not necessary that you have to attempt part B2 for your admission in M-Plan. There is no such rule. If you want admission in MArch, it is not necessary that you write only part B1. That is not necessary. So these points, considering this, be prepared with all the topics. If you're from planning background, yeah, it would be advisable to focus only on the planning part and skip the architecture part, that is structures and history. You can skip that. But if you're from architecture background, I would suggest you to have basic idea on all the topics, because of the reasons that the boundaries are not rigid. I already told you the boundaries of the syllabus are not rigid. So considering these 2 points, that the boundaries are not rigid, you can have any topic in any part. That deviation was seen in the last year's paper, and also the selection is something which you do during the examination. Because of these 2 points, I would suggest you during the course of preparation, focus on all the topics. Don't leave out something completely. Learn all the possible topics, and obviously you can have some area of focus, but don't leave out something completely. One more reason to add to that is the difficulty level. There is no question paper of GATE exam in which you have all difficult questions. Any GATE paper, if you look at the past papers, you will have a combination of easy, medium level and advanced level or difficult level. So there is a combination of all the 3 types of questions. So don't leave out. If you, for example, leave out a topic like structures completely, it is very much possible that you get a very easy question from structures. Why should you lose your marks in the common part when you're having an easy question from subtopic? So don't leave out. At least if you're leaving something, if you have a motive to leave out something, at least do the basics of it. Don't leave it out completely. So that is something which you have to keep in mind during the course of your preparation. Coming to the point with respect to negative marking, I already told you the number of questions with negative marking has reduced considered to the previous patterns of the question paper. Last year, 25 out of 55 questions had negative marking, because only 25 out of 55 questions were of MCQ type. MSQ and NAT have no negative marking. So more than around 65% of the question paper has no negative marking now. So considering this point, try to expand the knowledge, the horizons of your knowledge base. Try to learn as many theory points as possible, so that you have that extra premium to take a risk in the examination in some questions. And coming to the final point, but the most important point, as far as I think this would be the most important point during the complete course of the video, that is making your notes and having a short notes during the course of preparation. Whatever medium of preparation it is, even if you're doing taking coaching, or if you're doing your self preparation or any mode of preparation, the most important aspect would be preparing your notes. During the course of your preparation, make it a point that you have some notes to revise from before the examination. The last 1 month should be focused on revision, so have a notes for that. In fact, have a short notes as well. Have a running notes for your preparation, and from your notes make a short notes as well. Have a note of the important points of the preparation, so that you have something to revise from during the examination. So I hope all these points were helpful for you to give a perspective on the overall pattern of the paper and points to be considered in the course of a preparation, and we wish you all the best for GATE 2023 preparation. Thank you.